at the quantity variance. We've looked at the price. We see the purchasing department saved the company some money by getting a lower price for the materials. Now let's look at the quantity variance. In this formula, we compare the actual quantity used, okay, note that, actual quantity of the materials used. So that may be different from the quantity purchased in a different example or in real life. And we compare that amount with the standard quantity allowed. I abbreviate that sub A, SQ sub A. The A stands for allowed, A-L-L-O-W-E-D. Well, allowed for what? Allowed for actual production. Remember our standards. How much materials should have been used to produce the actual output, the actual 23,000 units. So we're going to have to calculate this number, this standard quantity allowed. But let's finish out the formula setup and then we'll do that calculation. So actual quantity of the materials used minus the standard quantity of the materials allowed for actual output. And then to total it out, we'll multiply that times the standard price of the input of the materials. Again, be careful when you're doing this. All right, let's crunch the numbers. We actually used 73,500 pounds of material. Remember, in this one, quantity purchased and the quantity used were the same. Then to calculate the standard quantity allowed, we will multiply the standard quantity of materials per unit. And remember, our standard quantity was 3 pounds per unit. So we take that 3 pounds per unit and multiply that times our actual output. So the standard quantity of 3 pounds times the 23,000 units we actually produced. And then that difference in quantities will be multiplied times our standard price of $3 per unit of materials. So again, fleshing out the math here. Now we've got actual quantity of materials used of 73,500. 3 pounds times 23,000 units of output is 69,000 pounds of material that should have been used to produce those 23,000 units. And again, that difference is going to be multiplied times 3. So before we total the dollars out, let's look at this. We actually used 73,500 pounds. We should have used only 69,000 pounds to produce those 23,000 units. We used a whole lot more materials than the standard called for. What are some possible reasons? Well, we could have poorly trained employees who wasted a lot of materials. We could have had some machine breakdowns that, messed up our materials. Could also be that $2.75, that was less than the $3 standard price, could have been because of inferior quality materials. We got cheaper materials, not just cheaper in cost, but cheaper in quality. And poorer quality materials often yield more waste of materials. So there's several questions that will remain to be answered, and we would then be talking to production, because production is where those materials get used. And if production says, my employees are good, we didn't have any machine breakdowns, but that material was horrible, then we go back to purchasing and talk to them about, what happened here? Why didn't you buy the standard grade of materials? Did you buy the standard grade of materials? What happened? And there could be a legitimate explanation, but we have to ask why. What happened here? So now we can guess the direction, favorable or unfavorable. We don't have to guess. We used more than the standard called for, so this is going to be an unfavorable materials quantity variance. The exact dollar amount, 73.5 minus 69,000 times $3, $13,800 unfavorable materials quantity variance. Now these two variances, the price variance and the quantity variance, tie back to the flexible budget. Within that cost of goods sold flexible budget spending variance, part of that is due to materials. Now we come back to our first question. They saved us $18,400 on the price of the materials. If it was poorer quality, that means more waste, but the waste was only $13,800. So did the purchasing manager do the company a favor cost-wise? Yes, they did, because the net materials variance is a $4,600 favorable variance. The savings on purchase price outweighed the additional cost due to waste, if that is indeed what caused this quantity variance. So far, so good. Overall favorable variance on materials. Next, we'll look at labor.